June 4th, 1944. Cold waters of the Atlantic churn 105 miles west of Cape Blanco, Africa. Suddenly, 58 German submariners break the surface, their hands raised in surrender. Behind them, their U-boat is crippled, taking on water, smoke billowing from its hull. These men expect the worst, to be machine-gunned in the water, or dragged aboard for brutal interrogation, before execution. They have no idea that this moment will make history. For the first time since the War of 1812, an enemy naval crew is about to be captured alive on the high seas by the U.S. Navy. The man leading this operation is Captain Daniel Gallery, commander of Task Group 22.3. Gallery isn't like other officers. Born in Chicago to Irish-American parents, he grew up in a neighborhood where a man's word mattered more than rules. He believed in treating people fairly, but also in thinking 3 moves ahead. Gallery's obsession wasn't to just destroy U-boats. He wanted to capture one intact, a feat everyone said was impossible. German subs were built to sink quickly when damaged, and crews were under strict orders to scuttle them to prevent capture. His superiors called the plan insane. Still, Gallery drilled his men relentlessly for the day such an opportunity might come. Now, with terrified German sailors floating in enemy waters, that day has arrived. On this Sunday morning, German commander Harold Lang had no idea his submarine was being stalked by American forces. A fateful mistake was about to change everything. As Gallery stared through binoculars, he knew he had mere seconds to choose: destroy the U-boat like everyone expected, or attempt a once-in-a-century gamble. "Away all boats," he ordered. "We're going to board her." Earlier that morning, German submarine U-505 had been limping through the Atlantic. For months, the crew had endured a nightmare patrol. Their previous commander, Peter Schuwe, had shot himself during a depth charge attack, right in front of his men, unable to bear the thought of capture. The crew became convinced their boat was cursed. Under new commander, Harold Lang, a 41-year-old officer with little experience on U-505, morale had collapsed. Supplies were running low, and after 2 months at sea, they hadn't sunk a single Allied vessel. At 11:09 a.m., Lieutenant William T. Tolan, piloting a U.S. Navy Grumman TBF Avenger, spotted a dark shadow beneath the waves, the telltale shape of a U-boat. He swooped low, dropping depth charges. The explosions crippled U-505's diving planes and electrical systems. Inside, panic erupted. Smoke filled the compartments, alarms blared, and Lang faced an agonizing decision: stay submerged and risk everyone drowning, or surface and fight. He ordered the boat to surface. The submarine burst from the water like a wounded beast, crew members spilling from the hatch and leaping into the ocean. In the chaos, Petty Officer Gottfried Fischer, tasked with setting the scuttling charges, made a critical error. He accidentally set the timer for 7 minutes instead of the standard 30 seconds. This mistake gave Gallery's boarding party a chance they never should have had. Lieutenant Albert David, only 23 years old, volunteered to lead the boarding team. He and 2 sailors rowed toward the burning sub, fully aware it could explode beneath them at any second. "Let's move!" David shouted as they climbed aboard, smoke and heat engulfing them. They thought they had 30 seconds to save the sub. In reality, they had 7 minutes. The clock was ticking. Inside U-505, the situation was dire. Water poured through open valves, electrical fires sparked, and the scuttling charges ticked ominously somewhere below. Lieutenant David had to make a life-or-death choice: retreat and save his men, or go deeper into the enemy sub to stop its destruction. Without hesitation, he ordered, "We're going below." Working by flashlight in the smoke-filled corridors, David and his men scrambled through the submarine. Finally, he located the main flooding valve and closed it, halting the rush of seawater. Another sailor found the timer and carefully disconnected its wires. One wrong move could have killed them all. Just in time, the charges were disarmed. The submarine, against all odds, stayed afloat, above American sailors were still rescuing German crew members from the water. The Germans were terrified, believing they would be executed or tortured. Instead, they were pulled aboard, given blankets, and treated for injuries. This alone shocked them. As the submarine stabilized, David's team began to explore its interior. What they found stunned everyone. Charts, code books, technical manuals, and most importantly, an Enigma machine. Fully set with the day's encryption settings. This was an intelligence goldmine. The material inside U-505 could reveal German submarine tactics, convoy routes, refueling points, and future attack plans. But there was one problem. If Berlin discovered the capture, they would change their codes immediately, making this priceless intelligence worthless. Gallery realized he faced a new challenge. Not only did he have to hide the submarine itself, but he also had to keep 58 German prisoners completely silent. Treat them with respect, he told his officers. If they trust us, they won't talk. The fate of the war now hinged on secrecy and unprecedented mercy. Captain Gallery understood the stakes. Standard procedure was to interrogate captured submariners and send them to prisoner-of-war camps. But doing so risked exposing the secret capture of U-505. If even one German sailor escaped or spoke of what had happened, Berlin would know their codes had been compromised. So Gallery devised an audacious plan. Keep the entire crew completely isolated for the rest of the war. First, the prisoners were transported in small groups, blindfolded and under heavy guard, with cover stories claiming they had been captured in North Africa. Their real location remained unknown, even to most Americans. Their destination was Camp Ruston, Louisiana, a secret facility prepared specifically for this mission. When the Germans arrived, they were stunned. Instead of harsh treatment, they were given clean barracks, regular meals, and even recreational activities. Gallery's orders were clear. The Germans were to be treated as professional military prisoners, not criminals. They would maintain their own military discipline. They would work for wages and receive male privileges. This humane treatment wasn't just kindness. It was strategic psychology. Well-treated prisoners were less likely to attempt escape and more likely to keep silent. For Commander Harold Lang and his men, the experience was surreal. They had expected execution or torture, yet instead found themselves drinking coffee and being addressed politely by their captors. Lang later wrote, "We could not understand it. We thought Americans were monsters. Instead, they treated us with dignity." As weeks turned into months, the U-505 crew remained completely cut off from the world. They had no idea their submarine had become one of the greatest intelligence prizes of the war, quietly shifting the balance in the Atlantic. While the German crew adjusted to life in secret captivity, U.S. intelligence teams were working around the clock. The material captured aboard U-505 proved to be priceless beyond measure. The Enigma machine and its code books allowed Allied cryptographers to break German naval messages with unprecedented accuracy. This meant Allied convoys could be rerouted away from danger, saving thousands of lives and countless tons of supplies. The charts revealed hidden submarine patrol routes and secret refueling stations, giving the Allies a massive strategic advantage. Technical manuals exposed improvements in German torpedo design and submarine construction. One intelligence officer remarked, "Capturing U-505 was worth sinking 100 enemy subs." But to protect this treasure trove, secrecy was vital. Not even most U.S. sailors knew what had truly happened. The official story was that U-505 had been sunk, and its crew lost at sea. Meanwhile, at Camp Ruston, the Germans were slowly realizing that their treatment was unusual. They were fed well, allowed to play soccer, even paid wages for work details. This humane approach created a strange bond. The Germans began to cooperate voluntarily, providing technical details about submarine operations. Ironically, the very men who had once terrorized Allied shipping were now helping to defeat their own navy. Not through betrayal, but because they felt respected. Gallery's experiment was proving revolutionary. treating enemies with honor and humanity, produced better intelligence than fear or brutality ever could. Back in Germany, no one suspected a thing. With their codes still in use, German U-boats continued to send unencrypted messages, unaware their secrets were being read daily. As the war progressed, U-505's capture quietly tipped the balance of the Battle of the Atlantic, ensuring Allied supply lines remained strong for the final push into Europe. When the war finally ended, the U-505 crew was released and repatriated to Germany in 1946, more than 2 years after their capture. They returned to a nation in ruins, shocked to discover how many of their fellow submariners had perished. The German U-boat service had one of the highest casualty rates of any military branch, over 75%, never returned home. Many couldn't believe Lange's men had survived, let alone been treated well. At first, their stories of humane captivity were met with skepticism. But as details emerged, U-505 became a powerful example of how enemies could show respect even in total war. Commander Harold Lang lived until 2003. He often spoke about that day in June 1944, saying Captain Gallery's decision had restored his faith in humanity. Years later, U-505 was moved to the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. In a remarkable twist, some former German crew members who had immigrated to America volunteered to help preserve their old submarine, working alongside former U.S. Navy sailors. The capture of U-505 wasn't just a tactical victory, it was a moral triumph. Gallery had the power to destroy his enemy, yet chose mercy and respect. He could have left the German crew to drown or lock them away in brutal conditions. Instead, he proved that decency could coexist with victory. One American sailor later reflected, "We didn't just win a battle that day. We proved what we were fighting for." The story of U-505 reminds us that even in the darkest hours, individuals can choose honor over hatred. Captain Gallery's bold decision saved lives, safeguarded critical intelligence, and left a legacy of humanity amidst the horrors of war, a legacy still remembered today.